Stop saying the phrase, I don't like it, as there are better advanced English phrases and expressions you could use to better express yourself when speaking in English. In this video lesson, we'll go through advanced ways to express I don't like it in English. Now, if this is the first time you're here on my YouTube channel, welcome. My name's Adriana from EnglishTeacherAdriana.com. I help English learners improve their English, boost their confidence to finally speak English confidently. If you'd like to drastically improve your confidence speaking in English, make sure to follow the next 2 steps. First of all, subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on notifications so that you know, get that bell when I post my next video lesson here to help you improve your confidence speaking in English. 2, download my free audio guide where I share with you exactly what you need to be doing every single day to improve your confidence speaking in English. To download my free audio guide, click the link in the description below this video, enter your name, your email address, and I will email you my free audio guide. You've done that? Fantastic. Remember guys, while watching this video lesson, make sure to be using and applying the shadowing technique. So basically the shadowing technique is when you listen to me, what you'll be doing throughout this video lesson, and repeat out loud at the same time so that you can get that speaking practice you deserve throughout this video lesson. Also, if you'd like to take down notes, make sure to go and grab yourself a pen and paper so that you can better remember and use these phrases when speaking in English. Ready? Let's begin with the first phrase you could use instead of I don't like it in English. Now the first phrase, that's not for me, is a great phrase to say that you don't like something, but it's really formal. So maybe it's not something that fits your personality, it's not your thing. Instead of saying, I don't like it, that's not for me is a great phrase to be using. For example, do you like playing sports? Instead of saying, I don't like sports, you could say, that's not for me. That's not for me. Or the phrase, I'm not into it. I'm not into it. For example, if I asked you, do you like wrestling? And you don't like wrestling. Instead of saying, I don't like wrestling, I'm not into it, or I'm not into wrestling, so we can change it to what you're referring to in this situation, wrestling. You're expressing that you don't like it. This phrase is very informal, great to be using with friends, families, and in natural conversations. Now, a more formal way of expressing this could be using the phrase, I'm not fond of it. I'm not fond of it. Very formal, very polite, great to be using colleagues in work situations. Now the word fond is similar to like. If you're fond of something, you either like it. If you're not fond of something, you don't like it. So for example, if you don't like wrestling, instead of saying, I don't like it, I don't like wrestling, I'm not fond of wrestling. Great, polite, and formal way to express that you don't like wrestling. Again, I'm not fond of it. I'm not fond of it. Now, a more formal, but also a more direct way of saying that you don't like something could be using the phrase, I dislike. So if you don't like wrestling, for example, instead of saying, I don't like wrestling, I dislike wrestling. Very direct, it's very harsh. If you really don't like something, you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to think about it, I dislike it is a great phrase to be using. Again, you could change it to the subject you're referring to. In this situation, wrestling. For example, I dislike wrestling. I dislike wrestling. But the phrase, I'm not crazy about it, I'm not crazy about it, isn't so direct. It is a little bit more formal. It is polite. It's a nice way to say that, again, you don't like something, but it's not so direct as the phrase, I dislike it. Again, the phrase is, I'm not crazy about it. For example, I'm not crazy about wrestling. I'm not crazy about wrestling. Also the phrase, I'm not passionate about it. I'm not passionate about it is another nice phrase to express that you don't really like something because it's not really your interest. So here, instead of saying you don't like it, we're using passion. Here, if you, for example, wrestling, it's not your thing, it's not a passion of yours. So if you'd like to describe that something isn't really something that you feel passionate about, so you don't like it, you could use the phrase, I'm not passionate about it. I'm not passionate about it. Also the phrase, I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of is a great phrase to be using in conversational settings. Again, it is polite to describe that you really don't like something, but it's not so direct. Again, for example, I'm not a fan of wrestling. I'm not a fan of wrestling. Now the phrase, it doesn't tickle my fancy. It doesn't tickle my fancy. Now this is a really polite conversational phrase you could use when you're maybe with your boss, with colleagues, and it's a nice, polite way to say that you don't like something. It's not the best phrase to be using in written correspondence, but in informal, really casual, laid-back, formal settings, then this phrase, it doesn't tickle my fancy, is a great way to say that you don't like something, someone, or some idea. Again, it doesn't tickle my fancy. It doesn't tickle my fancy. Now the phrase, I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that. This is a great phrase to express that you don't like something, but not so directly. So for example, if maybe artwork. So it's not that you don't like artwork, but you can't appreciate its beauty. Instead of saying, I don't like artwork, you could use a phrase, I don't appreciate the artwork, to express that it's not really your thing, you don't really like it, but you do not know how to appreciate and value that. Again, the phrase is, I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it. Great phrase to be using in formal, polite settings. Now, a very direct and also formal way of saying that you don't like something could be using the phrase, I'm not interested in, and state what you're not interested in. For example, I'm not interested in artwork. I'm not interested in artwork. By using this phrase, you are expressing that you don't like it, but nicely, by saying that you're not interested. It's not an interest of yours, and this is great to be using in formal settings when you feel like if you just said, I don't like it, that maybe people wouldn't continue speaking or talking with you, but by saying, I'm not interested in it, it expresses that it's not one of your hobbies, it's not your interest. Again, pronunciation, I'm not interested in it. I'm not interested in it. Now, some great phrases you could use in conversational settings to be very direct and very blunt could be, I detest. I detest. This is very formal. It's very blunt. For example, I detest wrestling. I detest wrestling. Or the phrase, I've had enough of. I've had enough of. Here, maybe you've seen too much of something and you hate it, you don't like it. You could use a phrase, I've had enough of wrestling. I've had enough of wrestling. Now, this phrase I actually mentioned before. I'm sure you use this phrase quite often. The phrase, I hate it. Now, if you really don't like something and want to be direct, of course you could use a phrase, I hate it. I hate it. Now, a similar phrase to I hate it is also a phrase, I loathe it. I loathe it. Personally, I don't use this phrase very often. Some English speakers do, in formal, in polite settings. If you like this phrase, you feel comfortable using this phrase, go ahead and use it. Again, pronunciation, I loathe it. I loathe it. Now, two informal phrases I use quite often in conversational settings, and many English speakers do as well in TV shows and movies, are the phrases, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. It's a great way to say that you don't like something. Maybe you just don't like hearing about it, seeing it. You've maybe even seen it too much or heard it too much. For example, a song that's being played over and over again. Instead of saying, I don't like this song, I can't stand that song. I can't stand it. Or, as I did before, can change the subject. I can't stand that song. I can't stand that song. Or the phrase, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Here again, so if you don't like something, maybe you've heard it over and over again, or you just simply don't like it, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it is a great phrase to be using instead of I don't like it. Again, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. Remember guys, that practice makes perfect. Make sure to watch this video lesson a few times. Say these phrases out loud, create examples so that you can remember and use them when speaking in English. Now, if you found this video lesson useful and you'd like more vocabulary lessons, make sure to let me know by smashing that like button. Like this video lesson and make sure to watch these two video lessons where I teach you more advanced vocabulary to help you better express yourself when speaking in English. Remember guys to also subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on notifications so that you get notified, you know, when I post my next video lesson here to help you improve your confidence speaking in English. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in my next lesson. Bye for now.